Resident Evil 7 is an absolute horror masterpiece. Now, I know I'm far from the first person to make that claim, and I seriously doubt that I'll come anywhere near the last. But Resident Evil 7 does everything right when it comes to creating an amazing horror experience. From the atmosphere, feeling like you were dropped right into the plantation in the middle of nowhere, Louisiana, stranded with a thick coating of unfamiliarity everywhere, to the sound design being just astonishing, even to the visuals with the dark lighting being front and center and showing how great this game can look, with all of it working together to immerse you in the world of this dark, twisted plantation. Now, before I get into why I believe this is the greatest horror game ever made, let's start with a little Resident Evil history lesson. Resident Evil is a survival horror game series that debuted on the PlayStation 1 in 1996. Created by Capcom, Resident Evil was one of the first of its kind. Within a year after hitting the shelves, it had sold around 4 million copies, cementing its place as a new staple in the video game horror space. This success led to the creation of Resident Evil 2, which officially made Resident Evil a series, eventually leading to the creation of more sequels, and in January of 2017, Resident Evil 7. It wasn't all smooth sailing though. After Resident Evil 4, the games became more and more action-oriented rather than horror, to the extent of straying so far from the original genre of survival horror that we got Resident Evil 6, which was not received well due to its overwhelming lack of horror. After the backlash Resident Evil 6 received, Capcom was determined to give people what they wanted, so they began to work on a new project, and on January 24, 2017, Resident Evil 7 was released to favorable reviews and sold around 5 million copies within its first year on the market. Now let's get into what Resident Evil 7 is truly all about. Resident Evil 7 stars Ethan Winters, the everyman, whose wife Mia went missing 3 years ago during a babysitting job. She sends him a video that tells him to not come looking for her, but also sends him an email that says she's alive in Dolby, Louisiana, so with hopes to bring her home, he drives to the location and comes to find a rundown house that looks to have been abandoned for a while. Making his way around the property, he sees a few strange occurrences, like a dismembered pig hung up on a wire and a man that seemingly disappears after walking past a tree out of Ethan's view. As he explores the house, he finds that the kitchen is covered in rotten food infested with bugs, and exploring further, a room with a VHS tape titled Derelict House Footage, which he puts in a VCR. This prompts one of the most unique parts of the game, where the player gets to play these past events rather than being forced to watch a cutscene, and they usually reveal an important item or location that will help in progression. This one shows 3 people making a video exploring the baker's old house, which quickly becomes much less fun once one of them goes missing, causing them to find a secret passage while looking for him that leads into the basement. They find their missing partner in the basement in less than stellar condition, and then the cameraman, Clancy, falls, and the camera shows a small portion of Jack Baker. Using the information from the tape he just watched, he finds his wife trapped in a cell in the basement after using the secret passage to get down there. He gets her out of the cell, and as they try to leave, she's taken away by something. Ethan chases in the direction she was taken in, going up some stairs and looking around for her until he hears pounding from the door he just came through. He walks back to the door, and as he approaches, all the ambience becomes silent, and the sound of glass sliding on the floor down the stairs is heard. She becomes erratic and attacks him. After defeating her, he gets a call from a mysterious woman named Zoe who tells him that there's a way out through the attic, leading to another fight with Mia in which she cuts off his hand, and after defeating her again, he is ambushed by a middle-aged man who knocks him out and takes him to a different house. He sees someone stapling his hand back on before passing out again. Once he wakes up, he's strapped to a chair with his hand reattached and working again, and around the table in front of him are the middle-aged man that knocked him out, Jack Baker, a young adult man, Lucas Baker, a middle-aged woman, Margarite Baker, and an old woman. On the table in front of him is a mound of disgusting food that Jack forces him to eat. His refusal is met with Jack kindly shoving a knife down his throat just before leaving the room once he hears someone ring the doorbell. Ethan rocks his way out of his restraints in the chair and looks for a way out, finding a key in the hallway for a trapdoor in the kitchen pantry leading to the laundry room, where he gets another call from Zoe. She tells him he needs to get out of the house and that there might be a way out through the main hall. The laundry room is also the first place where the player comes across a bobblehead football player called Mr. Everywhere, which is a collectible that can be found scattered across different places while playing. He goes to the main hall door, but it's locked, and he needs an ox statuette to unlock it. On his way back from the main hall, he hears someone banging on the window in the hallway. He goes to the window and sees a cop, who he tells that he's in danger and needs a weapon. After begging the cop for his gun, he is given a pocket knife and told to meet the cop at the garage, where the cop is promptly met with a shovel in the middle of his head, finally allowing Ethan to get to the gun he so desired. This is the first boss fight in the game, and I still remember the first time I played this boss fight. At the beginning of it, most people will instinctively try to shoot Jack until they defeat him, but that's the hardest way to do the boss fight. There are car keys on the workbench in the garage, and the player's meant to get them and use the car to run over Jack a few times, which leads to a cutscene where Jack jump scares the player and takes control of the car. Trying to move the wheel or reverse the car doesn't work, so the player is completely at the mercy of Jack, which he turns the car to face a pile of steel and promptly runs both Ethan and him into. The car bursts into flames, and as Ethan gets out, so does Jack. Engulfed in flames, he's not done with Ethan yet. Jack makes his way to Ethan and picks him up, but right as he does, the car explodes and sends both of them to the ground. Ethan, shaken up and still focused on escaping, makes his way to a ladder that will lead him out of the garage. But right as he steps on it, Jack grabs him and delivers a line that is an example of absolutely amazing writing.
Do I have your attention, boy? You're about to see some wonderful.
Ethan then gets the ox statuette and goes back to the main hall to unlock it. Making his way into the main hall triggers another phone call from Zoe, where she tells him he needs to find a way out of the house and that he may need some kind of keys in order to do it, prompting the search for the 3 dog head medals on the main door. Going upstairs, he runs into the old woman, and after solving some puzzles and finding the first 2 dog heads, Ethan finds a tape called Mia. Putting it in another conveniently located VCR transitions the player into the position of Mia while being chased by Margarite, prompting a stealth gameplay portion of Mia having to hide from Margarite in order to not get caught. Also showing off a type of puzzle involving a statuette that is rotated in order to cast a shadow on the wall to fill a missing section of a painting. After successfully avoiding her and attempting to hide under the floorboard, Margarite closes the opening, and after Mia makes it to the end of the tunnel, it goes black and Margarite jump scares the camera. Then it cuts to Mia being dragged away before the tape cuts off. Exploring further, Ethan comes across the bathroom, which, after draining the filled bath, he discovers a statuette. He goes towards the door, and right as he is about to walk out,
Heck of a thing, ain't it? Sure shit beats the hell out of dying.
the player is shown what Jack meant when he said that Ethan was going to see something wonderful. The game leads the player into a false sense of security by letting the player walk around without being bothered by any of the bakers once in the main hall, so that when they try to leave, they are met with a jump scare of Jack, who was presumed dead after the state he was last seen in the garage. This prompts the player's fight or flight response, causing them to either try and fight Jack or run away and attempt to find safety somewhere else. Once they have either defeated him or run to safety, the last thing to do is to find the next doghead medal, which will lead them to the main hall where another shadow puzzle is located. Completing the puzzle opens a hidden passage that comes out at a hidden den area, and as Ethan goes further into the rooms, he comes across one that is riddled with what looks to be black goop all over the place. And as soon as he tries to walk out of the room, he is met with the first actual monster in the game. He's faced Jack, which some would call a monster, but most of the time he looks human, and these creatures, called the Molded, look grotesque, rotten, and as if they're trying to imitate the form of humans, with the sole purpose of wanting to kill Ethan. Once defeating the monster, Ethan makes his way down to the basement, getting jump scared along the way, eventually making it to the incinerator room where there's a note on the wall that tells Ethan how to open the locked incinerator. After opening the correct doors, the locked one is unlocked, and upon opening it, a Molded crawls out and attacks him. Upon defeating it, he finds the dissection room keys on the incinerator that the Molded had crawled out of. Further in the basement is a green gate blocking the path. However, Ethan simply shoves it out of the way. In the room that it was blocking is the scorpion key and a passageway to another room, but it's locked and requires a snake key. Another corridor leads to the boiler room, which, after Ethan has a run-in with some more molded, leads to the dissection room, where he is met with a third and final dog head metal. He reaches forward to grab it, and right before he can, Jack shows up and talks about being someone's father. But now Ethan will be their father, and he's going to make him suffer because of it. After Jack's brief crash-out session, Ethan makes his way into the room he saw Jack in. After looking around more outside of that room, he finds the last dog head metal wrapped to a hook with barbed wire. And as soon as he grabs it, Jack grabs him by the face, turns him around, and kicks him down into a pit that has no accessible exit, prompting the next Jack boss fight. This fight really shows how scary Jack can be. Trying to track him seems almost impossible. He's extremely fast, and it seems like he's always out of sight due to just how well he ducks and weaves around Ethan. And to make matters worse, he's constantly mocking him while fighting him. After knocking Jack down the first time, he goes to a wire cage and rips it open to get some kind of scissored chainsaw creation, and as he picks it up, he says the same iconic line as Ash from Evil Dead 2.
Groovy.
Ethan then gets the second chainsaw, also behind the wire cage, and uses it against Jack in order to even the playing field. Upon beating him once again, his upper body explodes, and he takes a few steps before his legs collapse. And Ethan uses the chainsaw to cut the bar locking the door in order to get out and leave the basement. Upon leaving, Ethan's met with humming, and once going up the stairs, it stops as the old woman notices his presence, almost as if she's trying to make it seem like he's going crazy or imagining things. Ethan then goes back to the main hall and places the final dog head metal on the door, unlocking it and granting him freedom from the prison the Bakers call a home. As soon as he steps outside, a trailer can be seen, where there are some cool secrets hidden around the baker's yard that can be found if the player knows where to look, which incentivizes the player to explore and try to find everything they can. Going in the trailer, Ethan finds a bed, a bra, and a broken handgun, among many other random things. And right as he opens the door to leave, he gets yet another phone call from, you guessed it, Zoe, in which she tells him that her family and her are contaminated, as well as Mia. And the only way they can leave is if Ethan gets a serum to cure him that she thinks her mom hid in their old creepy house by the water. Ethan makes his way to the Baker's old house, crossing a creepy bridge covered in hang dolls on the way. But don't worry, because once he gets into the house, it doesn't get any better. The house is swarming with bugs, and every room there will be some kind of flying bug trying to infect Ethan. But making his way through the house, he finds the same shadow puzzle Mia did in the recording of her trying to get away from Margarite. But the statuette is missing, so he sets off to look for it. This leads him to destroy a bug nest that's blocking a passage connected to a door, and as he enters the room and grabs the statuette, he sees Mia and asks her what's going on before Lucas grabs her and takes her away, to which he promptly delivers one of the best lines in the game.
Ethan, help!
Damn it.
He doesn't sound worried, as he's killed her before and she came back, so he delivers the line in a frustrated tone because he is tired of this and just wants to go home. After getting jump scared by Margarite and having to hide from her, Ethan uses the statuette to open the passage and get to the other side of the house, where he sees a locked door with a crow. Using the info he learned from the VHS tape of Mia, he goes into the crawl space under the floor and gets the crank before coming back up and using it to raise some bridges, allowing him to get the crow key from a shed back across the docks. Using the key, he goes to unlock the door and...
I told you to stay out of here!
She throws Ethan back, breaking the floor and trapping him in a pit, prompting a fight with Margarite. After knocking her into the pit and climbing out, he unlocks the door and gets a call from Zoe, where he tells her that he found out what the ingredients are for the serum, to which she says she has the head and asks if he's looked everywhere in the house, to which he responds that he needs to check the second floor. On his way to the second floor, he finds that the door is locked with a balancing mechanism that requires Margarite's lantern. After making his way back to the pit, he looks into it and sees a long, deformed arm stretching out to grab the lantern, and going down shows a deformed, long-limbed Margarite crawling through the tunnel. Following her leads to an area with a greenhouse, and going inside leads to a large hole, which falling down reveals a decrepit-looking building. As Ethan explores, he goes up a flight of stairs and is stopped in his tracks by Margarite smashing a window and grabbing him by the leg. After shooting her and getting to the top of the stairs, the player sees Margarite's full, disgusting, deformed body with a large nest around her groin as if she is the mother of the bugs. In my opinion, the boss fight with Margarite that follows is the most difficult fight in the game. She stays out of Ethan's sight the majority of the fight, causing him to have to hunt her down, and when she does pop up, it's usually behind Ethan, causing a jump scare when the player realizes she's there. After beating Marguerite and watching her crumble into pieces, Ethan can leave, having obtained the lantern. Upon arriving back at the old house and walking into the crow door, a noise of a piano can be heard. Looking into the room shows that nobody is there. So continuing through the house, he can put the lantern on the old-fashioned scale and unlock the door. What follows is the scariest part of this game. This room and every room that follows are completely dark, so Ethan's guided only by his flashlight. There are loud noises like doors slamming, balls bouncing from nowhere, and creepy drawings and writings everywhere. This is worsened as the sound of the creaking old house echoes throughout. And right before the last door in this creepy maze-like corridor, this happens.
Stay away.
Right after that, there's a single door at the end of a short hallway that leads to a room with only a bed and a dollhouse. Opening the dollhouse shows a drawing with a circle on the back wall of the room. Interacting with that opens a secret room with the ingredient for the serum. Once Ethan has grabbed the arm, he turns around and... As he leaves the room, he's met with molded that he has to evade as he runs out of the corridor. While trying to leave the old house, Zoe calls Ethan again and asks if he got the arm, and says that she'll be waiting for him in the trailer. At the trailer, Ethan quickly realizes it's empty and gets another call, but this time it's from someone else.
Now where the hell are you? You know, never mind. We only need the head, and you've got it. This is gonna help me and me, right?
Hey, buddy. I thought you should know. I decided that Zoe needed a timeout. She and Mia are here with me. And they're keeping each other company.
Just let them both go! What do you need them for?
Nuh-uh. That's family business, Ethan, and not your concern. Understand? Now, if you want the head, feel free to come by any time and I'll give it to you. But only if you participate in a little, activity I've put together just for you.
What activity?
Oh, I know you're excited, but don't worry. It's not going anywhere. First step I need you to take, partner, is for you to take a peek inside the fridge in the trailer there.
Fuck you!
Oh, come on now. Don't be like that. You want to have some fun, don't you? Now, look in the fridge.
Looking in the fridge reveals the cop from earlier with a note on the back of his head telling Ethan to go to the dissection room. On his way there, he opens the door to the boiler room and is met with the old woman once again. Once in the dissection room, he has to grab the snake key from the cop's throat. And at first he says,
No.
but realizing he has no choice, he does it anyway. Lucas then tells him he needs to use it to get key cards for the building Mia and Zoe are being held in. Going to the second floor in the main house, Ethan finds Lucas's old bedroom, and in it are a bunch of trophies and a note that gives a hint about which one is the remote to the attic. Once using it and getting to the attic, there's a VHS tape titled Happy Birthday, along with another shadow puzzle that opens a dollhouse and allows Ethan to get the blue key card. Going to the opposite side of the second floor leads to the master bedroom with the old woman waiting inside, as well as a note saying to set the bedside clock to the same time as all the other ones. And after doing so, the bed moves and reveals yet another secret passage to the workshop in the basement, allowing him to get the red key card. Upon entering the main hall, Lucas calls Ethan again and reminds him of where he's going, and he says he can't talk to Mia until he shows up. Making a brief stop at the trailer, Ethan can watch the VHS tape that he got from Lucas's room, not on a conveniently located VCR. It begins with Clancy, the cameraman from the first VHS tape, being dragged by Lucas into a room that he then locks and leaves. This introduces an escape room where Clancy has to solve puzzles in order to put a lit candle on a cake. Using the candle provided, he burns a rope off of a door, and in the room he finds a balloon, which he can put on an exposed pipe that's blowing air, causing a nail and quill pen to explode from the balloon and stab him. He then gets a dirty telescope, and after using the water in the cake room to clean it, he can see the correct combination for a locked box, granting him a doll and a stick that says "you," as well as getting a winding key that was keeping a keg of oil closed. After putting the winding key in the clown, he lights the doll on fire, which reveals the finger the clown was missing, and after giving it to the clown and the quill pen, this happens.
What the fuck is this? What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, man. No!
Using the word the clown kindly provided, Clancy can open the locked door in the balloon room and get the valve handle to turn the water off in the cake room. Putting it on the valve and relighting the candle, Clancy makes his way to the cake to end the escape room. The voice acting in this part is great. From the confusion at first, caused by having to process what just happened, leading into the screams of agony. Clancy may not have been in the game for very long, but he is definitely a great character. Ethan then leaves and makes his way into the testing area in order to save Mia and Zoe. After unlocking the door with the 2 key cards, he's forced to sit down and watch yet another video. This time, Lucas is rambling about how he has the other ingredient for the serum and he doesn't want to go back to being a normal human, and he talks to an off-screen character named Evelyn, ending it off by telling Ethan that if he wants to make the serum, he has to go through him before the TV promptly blows up and a passageway behind it is revealed. This part of the game consists of ducking and weaving while trying to avoid the tripwires rigged to bombs Lucas has set up around the building, eventually coming out to a room with a door in need of a code, of which Lucas tells Ethan the wrong one a few times just to trick him. But while they were talking, another passage opened up leading to a barn with a few molded wandering around. After taking care of those, he heads upstairs only to drop right back down on the other side. He's greeted by some kind of power station that's missing a battery, and once finding the battery and putting it in the power station, a mini boss fight begins, and Lucas chimes in.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the bar fight! Keep it clean, gentlemen, we have rules.
After Ethan kills the fat vomit molded thing, he gets in the elevator it came from, and after ascending a floor, it opens, revealing a hallway to a room containing the charred remains of Clancy, with a note that contains the code and says, "You're next." Now that he has the code, he uses it on the locked door and is told to put all of his belongings in the storage outside of the room. Upon doing that and entering the room, Lucas slams the door behind him, and he realizes this is the same room that Clancy was trapped in. Using the knowledge he gained from the VHS tape of Clancy, he knows what to do to survive without meeting the same fate. So, he burns the rope on the door, unlocks the door to the room with a valve handle, gets it, puts it on, relights the candle, and puts the candle on the cake. Now, Lucas is not very happy that Ethan didn't die by the fire trap that he rigged, so he drops a bomb into the room, but there's a hole in the wall allowing Ethan to throw the bomb out of the room. Once the bomb explodes and the debris settles, Lucas whines and runs away, allowing Ethan to get the other ingredient for the serum and leave the testing area. Now that all the bakers have been revealed as well as the way they function, I want to add in that each one of the bakers is designed to represent a different horror trope. Jack Baker is designed to work like a killer from a slasher movie, such as Michael Myers. He never runs, but is somehow always faster than Ethan, and he seemingly never dies, always coming back, surprising the player as each time they kill him, they assume he's gone for good. Next is Margarite, the embodiment of body horror and gross horror. Her mutated, disgusting body causes a feeling of revulsion and unease like seen in the film Tusk, as well as her use of bugs grossing out the player and causing anxiety of having to hear the noise of their wings flapping as they buzz around like in the film Candyman. The last evil member of the Baker family, Lucas, is the portrayal of psychological horror such as in the Saw franchise. He doesn't directly interact with his victims, but rather traps them in a planned event that forces them to play his game and makes them do things they wouldn't do do under any other circumstance, as well as harm themselves by the choices they make. This design of the game, exposing the player to multiple different types of horror in a single game, is brilliant. The player won't get tired of the same scare tactic happening over and over, and will always be wondering what's coming next, constantly on the edge and scared without it being a cheap jump scare or something of the like. Anyway, back to the game. Ethan comes out at docks that lead to another building, and upstairs he finds Mia and Zoe tied to pipes. Mia is out of it, and Zoe wants the ingredients to make the serum. After giving them to Zoe and her making the serum, this happens.
Hey, one of those is mine.
Zoe! Get your ass back to the house! I will deal with you later!
This throws Ethan into yet another fight against Jack, but this time he is deformed and hardly recognizable. After shooting out all of his eyes and curing him with the serum, he meets the same fate as Margarite before Ethan having to face the decision of saving his wife or Zoe. After making a very difficult decision and choosing to save his wife, Zoe has this to say.
It's fine. It was foolish thinking I could escape.
But Zoe,
Go! Both of you just go!
come with us. I'm sure there's someone who can help.
This is my home. Apparently I belong here.
While on the boat, Ethan asks Mia to tell him the truth, to which she responds by saying that she doesn't remember. They come across a giant ship before they're taken underwater by the mold, prompting this.
Mommy. This way.
Now playing as Mia, she sets out to find Ethan. Exploring through the wreckage of the ship, she sees Ethan, but he's quickly taken away by the mold. While traversing the ship, she finds some writing on the walls before seeing a flashback of a girl at the top of a staircase infecting a worker with the mold. The girl then asks Mia if she's remembering, and Mia responds confused, asking what the little girl is, and the little girl responds by laughing and walking around a corner. Further into the ship, Mia has another interaction with the girl where she tells Mia that she said that they could be a family and that she's tired of waiting while leaving through a door that's locked and requires a fuse. Exploring the first floor allows Mia to find the fuse she needs. Once unlocking the door, she finds that the second floor is locked and continues to the third floor, finding the girl waiting for her. The little girl tells Mia to watch the VHS tape in front of her in order for them to be a family. Mia puts the old videotape in the VCR, prompting a scene of her talking to a man named Alan concerned for his health. His response prompts an example of great writing where he continuously refers to a her, leaving the player in a feeling of suspense with the desire to find out who the her he is talking about is. Mia responds by saying this.
Okay, Evie, where are you?
This tells the player that the her is named Evie. Upon exploring the ship, she finds mold in the kitchen and gets a call from Alan, with their conversation telling the player that Evie is the one that's to blame for the mold. Continuing the search, she sees someone run into an elevator, and after following them and taking care of some molded along the way, she's met with the voice of Evie, asking if she's mad at her, and telling her she wants a real house and for Mia to be her mom. At the entrance to the room she was in, she sees the same little girl that she's been talking to while on the ship, which reveals that she is Evie. An alarm goes off, prompting Mia to run to the elevator to evacuate the area, but Evie is seen taking it right before she can reach it. Upon getting in the elevator, it stops due to the emergency, forcing her to get off. Once off the elevator, she gets another call from Alan and asks where he is, leading her to search the ship and find him on the third floor. He then promptly dies.
That little bitch, she never trusted. Okay, wait. Evie, no, Evie.
Alan,
I didn't mean to
listen!
call you that.
She's
Evie,
trying
I didn't
to
mean-
take
I didn't mean-
control! You have to fight her!
Mia then gets infected with the mold and finds her laptop that she uses to record the same video she sent to Ethan from the beginning of the game. She runs into Evie, who says they'll be together forever, and then she does the most rational thing in that scenario and blows up the entire boat, sending Mia into the ocean. It then cuts back to Mia talking to Evie in current time, where Evie asks if they can be a family, and Mia says no, prompting this.
Then I don't need you anymore.
With her newly stained brown pants, Mia continues through the ship in search of Ethan. She finds the broken elevator and climbs inside in order to gain access to the 4th floor, where she finds a camera system that shows Ethan's location before getting jump scared by Evie again. Exploring further reveals a lug wrench in the captain's cabin, which she can then use on the elevator to go to the 2nd level. Looking at the exposed panel indicates that the elevator needs the fuse from earlier and a cable. Crawling down to the 1st floor, she grabs the fuse before swiftly climbing back into the elevator and installing it, leading her back to the 3rd floor where she can melt the lock on the door using corrosive and continue into a lab room. In the room, she finds a cable, but there's also a fat vomit molded thing that she takes down easily before retrieving the cable and heading back to the elevator. Installing the cable turns the elevator on again and allows her to access the bottom floor, where she's met with Evie taunting her by telling her,
He's waiting.
Taking care of the molded on the way, she finds Ethan encased in mold and calls out to him. Reverting back to Ethan's perspective, the player sees him talking to Jack with Zoe next to him. He tells Ethan that Evelyn was the cause of everything that they did due to them being infected by her gift, and that she just wants a family of her own. This allows Ethan to realize that Mia only sent him the message to come because Evie had infected her. Jack tells Ethan that Evie is the key and asks him to free his family. It cuts back to Mia and Evie arguing about Ethan, with Evie saying he doesn't love her and that she can make him love her, with Mia begging for Ethan's safety. She then breaks Ethan out of the mold he is engulfed in and shoves him out of the room. An amazing thing about this cutscene is that while shoving him out, she looks normal, but once on the other side of the door, she is back to the infected version of herself that was seen at the beginning of the game, as if she was holding it back just long enough to get Ethan to safety. Now playing as Ethan once again, he walks towards a cabin while having to trudge through water. After going through the cabin, he is met with some molded, which he easily takes care of and uses an elevator to get into the mines, which leads to a lab with the serum for Evie inside. Further into the mines, he hears Evie humming, and upon getting closer, she wishes him well in his adventures. Yeah, just kidding. She sends a bunch of molded after Ethan on his way out of the mines, eventually leading to an open area with a mini-boss consisting of 2 fat molded, which are easily taken care of by Ethan. Continuing his way through the cave, he finds a boarded up passage that leads into the baker's basement from the beginning of the game. Ethan then begins seeing a mix of flashbacks of the chainsaw-wielding Mia and Evie taunting him. Going to the attic, he runs into Evie, who uses pulses that he has to block in order to get close to her. When he finally reaches her, he injects her with the serum, causing her to turn into the same old woman that Ethan has seen throughout the game, revealing that it was her keeping an eye on him the whole time. This prompts the final boss of the game, Evie, to turn into a giant mold monster that Ethan has to take down. After damaging her enough, she throws him out of the house, where he sees just how large she is, leading to him being picked up and dropped from an enormous height. Someone throws a weapon down for him to use to finish the fight, and once using it, Evie meets the same fate as Jack and Margarite, as she crumbles to pieces, having been killed once and for all. For beating Evie, and in turn, the game, the player is rewarded with this.
Redfield. I'm glad we found you.
The fuck took you guys so long?
Ethan?
Mia. You made it. I'm glad.
Did I?
say that when one door closes, another opens. Well, a door closed tonight. And what a long night it was. But not just for me. Mia and I weren't the only victims here. So were the Bakers. It was that thing, Evelyn, who made them that way. But now Evelyn's dead. And these guys are here to clean up the mess. I had just come to terms with losing Mia. And now she's back and wants to start over. Put all this behind us. Maybe this is where the next door opens.
And roll the credits. I just want to say thank you to anybody and everyone who watched this video. This is the first video I've ever recorded or edited or done anything to really, and I just figured I'd try something new, and surprisingly it was pretty fun. So yeah, but I might make some more videos. I don't know, I can't promise anything, but yeah, anyway, if I do, I'll see you next time.